Math time with Miss Hartzell, Module 8, Lesson 11. I can describe a whole by the number of equal parts including 2 halves, 3/3, and 4/4. Okay, so we've learned what words we can use to name different ways that we've divided a whole: halves, thirds, and fourths. We've learned about the words numerator, which describes which is the top number of a fraction and describes the part that's either been shaded or unshaded. Or if you're talking about realistic objects, maybe that's talking about the part that's missing or that's left over. That's the numerator. They're the parts. The denominator is the number that's at the bottom of the fraction. And the denominator is what represents the whole object, but it represents the whole object into the parts that it's been divided into. So try to remember those words today as you practice, but we're going to talk about what happens when the whole object is shaded. What kind of fraction represents that? Or unshaded. What fraction represents when a whole object has been divided, but the whole thing is unshaded? So stay tuned for your pause and think and for the rest of the lesson so that you can understand what fractions we can use when the whole entire object has been divided, but the whole entire object is either shaded or the whole entire object is unshaded, because there are fractions that represent those parts. So, pause and think time. So we've been talking a lot this week about fractions. So take a look at this image, this rectangle that's been divided into 4 parts. What fraction of this rectangle is shaded? Pause and think about the answer to this question, and when you're finished thinking, press play. So today in our lesson, we are going to talk about what happens when you have a whole and it's been divided into parts, but all the parts are shaded. Or maybe if you're being asked what part is unshaded, the whole thing is unshaded. What does that even mean? So let's take a look at this problem. It says, what fraction of this pizza hasn't been eaten? So that means that this pizza, nobody has come over and eaten it. We can see that this pizza has been divided into 2 equal parts. So if 2 parts haven't been eaten and the pizza is divided into 2 parts, doesn't that mean that the fraction is 2/2 or 2 halves? Yeah, that's exactly what the fraction is to explain this pizza. If nobody has eaten this pizza and the pizza's been divided into 2 parts, then 2 halves are left of this pizza, or 1 whole pizza hasn't been eaten. And that happens sometimes with fraction friends. So just be aware, when you see the same numerator as is the denominator, that should be a clue that you are looking at 1 whole. Let's take a look at another example. So now this pizza is divided differently. And we're being asked the same question. What fraction of this pizza hasn't been eaten? Well, this pizza has been divided into how many parts? Think about that for a moment. It's 3. This pizza has been divided into thirds, 3 equal parts. And none of the pieces have been eaten. So if 3 pieces have not been eaten and the whole has been divided into 3 equal parts, then the fraction for this pizza is 3/3, or 3/3. And guess what? 3/3 equals 1 whole pizza. So what fraction of this pizza hasn't been eaten? 3/3 or 1 whole pizza hasn't been eaten. What about this pizza? What fraction of this pizza hasn't been eaten? Well, how many parts has this pizza been divided into? 4. And how many pieces haven't been eaten? 4. So the numerator is representing what hasn't been eaten, 4, and the denominator represents how many pieces the whole was divided into. So 4/4 of this pizza, or 4/4, have not been eaten. Another way to say this is 1 whole pizza has not been eaten. So today when you're doing your daily practice, you will take a look at fractions, and you will practice some of the skills from yesterday. You'll take a look at some fractions, and it might not be everything is shaded, so please be careful of that and read your questions carefully. But you will have some questions when your whole entire object or shape is shaded, and you need to know that when that happens, you still can consider it a fraction, but you also need to remember that that is 1 whole shape that is shaded. Just like the pizzas today. If those pizzas were not eaten and it was split into 2 parts, then that's 2 halves that have not been eaten. So try to do your best today. This will be the last day for looking at fractions this way, and next week we're going to be starting to look at time. So we will continue looking at fractions, but we will be looking at fractions using a clock. So stay tuned for that, but for today, focus your brain on fractions. Numerators describe the part that is shaded or unshaded, depending on your question. The bottom number, or the denominator, represents the parts of the whole, all of the parts of the whole. Do your best today and use your resources to help you through this work, whether it's the hints, your parents, or rewatching the video. Do your best and have a great day.